So what was going on in Erie, Jonathan?
So it's not just Erie, it's Pennsylvania. So if you realize, like, if you live in Pennsylvania, up until I think it was like last week, you could not go to the liquor store. You could get liquor online, but that didn't really work. So everything you bought was local distilleries. Like the local distilleries had lines out the back door of people just lined up to buy whatever they happened to be making. Anything that made vodka, gone. All that stuff's gone. And you were down to like their weird peated, blended, smoky stuff that they don't sell to anybody, which was neat. It was interesting, but a little scary.
A little scary. Yeah, we for whatever reason, like I said, they decided that liquor stores and dispensaries in Illinois were still essential businesses, so they kept all that stuff rolling and going.
So what do you have, Travis? I didn't see your.
Oh, yeah, I have. Let's see if I can get it out of the thing. It's the Lena Brewing Company. It's a Rodler, otherwise known as a shandy. So it's a grapefruit soda and mixed with beer. It's more of a lighter summer blend, I guess is what I would call it. You know, you like your whatever. If you guys get Liney's, the summer shandies and stuff like that. I figured it was a good late afternoon light drink.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, because I picked like a peated whiskey.
It's a little heavier.
So now I can feel like the alcoholic of the group.
Right.
It's good.
What about you, Trent? What you got there?
Well, I was coming in a little heavier than you, but this is from a little place in Indianapolis called Metazoa, actually.
You got to bring it in front of you. There you go.
Whoop.
What happens when virtual goes real, baby?
Yes.
Right.
Is that an IPA? Did I see a hop on it?
Oh yeah, hopopotamus.
Yeah,
that's how I see it. That's how I see it after a while, right?
That's right. Yeah,
it starts fading in and out. Yeah.
I like to call it the Hip Hop Anonymous.
It's a great call out to a great Adam Sandler movie.
The Hip Hop Anonymous. So we have people joining. Oh wait, Altered State. There we go.
Altered States. There it is.
Pennsylvania distillery from Erie. But like, do you guys remember the movie Altered States from like a million years ago?
Yeah, vaguely.
No, I don't.
No idea. Trent's got no idea.
He has no idea, so I just made myself really old.
I don't either.
It's really good. You can go back and watch it, and I'll be embarrassed.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Sounds like what you're doing this weekend.
Yeah.
So if all of you are joining in and you're wondering what you're walking into, well, we figured we'd just recreate what it is that this thing started as, and that's our favorite part of the after hours of our favorite technology conferences, since we can't be there right now. So, this is our show about nothing. I'm so excited to have this start off right here. It's been a long time in the making, and, unfortunately it has to be virtual, but better virtual than nothing at all. Right, guys?
That's right.
So we will be running this across the board. We're going to be talking a bit, but I'm first going to introduce Travis Voss. Travis, you kind of put this thing together, so I'm going to let you go ahead and tell a little bit about yourself. And you kind of already started giving away what you're drinking, but let's talk about it.
Yeah, I'm Travis Voss. I work for Mechanical Incorporated here in Northern Illinois as a leader of innovative technology. So like all the other construction technologists, I think you kind of know what we do. I can't take credit. I know that Jeff's going to continue to give the shout out, and I will, to DJ Phipps for the Construction Dorks title. But over the last, probably, what has it been, almost 2 years now, guys? We've been kind of running with the moniker and building it into a little bit of it's almost its own platform now. So both Trent and Jonathan both reached out to me individually and kind of like kicking around this idea of the podcast. I'm like, well, let's just combine forces. So the idea is the show about nothing, and we'll expand on that from here. And I'll bring this back up. This is Lena Brewing. It's a small town brewery just down the road from me, and this is their Rodler, similar to us, like a summer shandy. It's a good beer. Good beer.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, what about you, man? What do you got drinking? Tell us where you're coming from. Talk to everybody for me.
Well, I departed from contracting boy, like about 13 months ago, I think is when I finally left contracting. So I'm doing my own thing now. I'm doing consulting. I'm also running kind of a test lab, doing a little testing of new tech and kind of working on that, and also doing a little work with some like different app design. So I'm having a lot of fun doing that. And what I also got to do, which is kind of cool, is I've got to see like everybody's fab shop lately and see everybody else's stuff from the outside, which is totally different than what I had ever done before. Because usually you talk to people and you're like from another contractor, and it's a totally different experience when you're there to help, like totally different experience. So I've been doing that and enjoying the hell out of it. I'm stuck up in Erie. I'm drinking I'm drinking a transparent liquid. I'm drinking a peated whiskey because we were going to drink some locals from altered states. And like local whiskey is never as good as like the brand name whiskeys, but altered states comes really damn close. So I'm happy.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for joining us. Trent, why don't you give us a little intro, talk about why you're here?
Yeah, of course, man. Trent Leinenbach, Indianapolis, Indiana. I work for North Mechanical Contracting. Kind of similar to Travis. I'm our VDC and technology manager. So anything in virtual design, anything in digital, my hands are on it. Work a lot with we're a large fabricator, so work a lot with our fab shop, trying to kind of run our manufacturing from the model. And that's where the virtual design ties into it. So it's kind of how, and obviously a lot of BIM is a big talk that we have in our contact sphere. So it's kind of what brings us together in a lot of conversations. So I'm sure many of our topics about nothing on this show will, in one way or another, revolve around BIM and virtual design. So,
what you drinking?
And so I went ahead and got rid of the cosmic background, so maybe we can see this a little better. But brewery in downtown Indianapolis called Metazoa. This is the Hopopotamus, or the Hip Hop Anonymous. So I've had a couple of them before, I think. So
one or two, right? So
Yeah, no.
Yeah, never more. No.
Never more.
No. Two's too many. That you go past that, it gets ugly. So we are gonna have a few ground rules. We're gonna talk a little bit about it because usually these things happen after hours. So unless somebody's micing it up and bugging us, we're allowed to talk freely. But I think, Travis, you put it best, and we were talking beforehand we're more of in a fishbowl right now than we are in the back room of the bar right now. So you guys are free to ask questions. This is interactive. We'll try to make your sound available if you can talk. Obviously, chat with me, ask questions, raise your hands. I'm going to be your moderator. Kind of, unfortunately, I wish it could be super town hall, but I'm sure quite a few of you have tried that already, and it doesn't work out so well. So we're going to try and do it this way. So, don't bash things that you don't want somebody to hear, because we're going to post this thing afterwards. We'll probably rework it a little bit. So if you drop a real bad one, we might catch it. But again, we're all not into this for cleaning it up afterwards. This is about recreating our favorite parts. But Travis, you kind of dug into this before, and I've been a Contact Crew member for a while. So I'm Jeff Sample. I'm with eSub. And that's about all you'll hear about eSub on this one today, because we're just here to be a part of the conversation. Me as a construction dork. I'm a big fan of this whole movement and what we're doing and what we talk about. I'm also the dummy in the corner who always gets to ask you the question. Like, I remember asking Travis, what does BIM stand for? Like, you guys are all using this word, but I just got here. I don't know what we're talking about. So, and I remember going up to Jonathan and tapping him on the shoulder and asking him those kind of things. So I will be trying to keep everybody a little bit honest and maybe explain it in case we get some other people listening. But also, I think, Jonathan, this kind of came of a conversation that we had where we did the Why BIM, Why Now recently on the platform. And we wanted to take the gag off and go deep. So feel free to go deep. Feel free to ask tough questions. If you have the answer, bring it up. So that's kind of where we are. That's kind of the kickoff that we wanted to do. But being a Contact Crew member, one of my favorite parts was always being a listener to it. And I remember exactly where I was in the car when this idea of the Construction Dorks was brought up on the show. And, you know, Travis, you get all the credit for this, but I think you want to tell a different story.
Oh, I shouldn't take any of the credit for it. It's completely DJ Phipps. It's his tagline. It's his title. We've just been running with it. And it's been great to watch. You know, he's been a great proponent of this. We all have as a group have continued to grow this. And I think that one of the great things about it, or the special things about it, is we are just a group of passionate individuals trying to solve the problems, not only for our company, but also for the entire the entire industry. And those problems are completely, or those solutions are all completely agnostic. You know, that's why I think that we've gotten some really good traction, because we're not out here stumping for one particular solution or anything like that. We just want to make the industry that we're in love with, we want to make it better. And I think that that passion, I think, is what kind of attracts everybody. And you know, to give DJ some of the credit there, you know, the dorks and everything like that, it shows that we have personality. And I think that that's pretty important in our group, because we have to be able to laugh at ourselves. We have to be able to have some fun and have that personality.
That's a pretty good way to do it. And of course, in true DJ style, he's already hit us up and he said, I think it was best said in December when Travis shared it, was the formalization of hallway conversations. I told DJ, I'm totally with you, man. I think it is that formalization, but it's that coming together of what for me was really a cool part of a totally cool part of the experience. Jonathan, what about you?
Well, you know, I always love the after conversations more than anything else. But I think one of the things that, like, coming together with this group that I thought we could do a little bit more is, you know, we're always saying, you know, don't use abbreviations, you know, watch how nerdy you get with the talk. And the nice part about going to a show is usually you could go after the show, sit down with somebody, and they are on an equal geek level with you, where you can talk about, you know, you can talk about why ITMs are different than RFAs and better, and why this is better than that. And that level of nerd does sort of make it an isolating conversation at times. But that was part of it, was, you know, all of the podcasts that you see out there, we're talking and we're trying to bring everything down a level so that it can be understandable to everyone. And I wanted at least one where we didn't have to do that necessarily, where someone could ask us a real question that's technical. Because Trent, every single day you work hands-on with coordination, with Revit, with BIM, with VDC. And that means that every single day you're really answering those questions. And a lot of times, like, I've just taught a lot of panels or taught a lot of classes, I can't get real technical because there's not sort of the format to do that. So I was hoping that as Construction Dorks, we could handle a little bit of alphabet soup, you know, and maybe start looking at some of the stuff that's less understood, and a little bit more like, I know that we act like we understand certain things, and then you sit down to do them and you're like, I don't know why I said I understood that. There's like 9 different flavors of what I was just talking about. But what do you think, Trent? Like, when you're after the show, what kind of conversations are you looking to have?
Oh, gosh, I mean, it's so hard to tell what you're going to talk about on any given day. And the more of the conferences and the shows that we go to, the common denominator that we all have when we talk about it is that very few of us really look forward to the actual show as much as we look forward to these conversations afterwards. So given the current, you know, state of our world and where we are, we were talking about missing these shows, but I think it was mainly we were missing this. So when we came together for a show idea, it was like, well, I mean, I don't think we need to, try and invent something new here. We just need to talk like we always do, and just kind of, and maybe present what that week's problem was for somebody, and just challenge somebody to come up with a solution. And what better place to do that than with all these like-minded individuals? So, I mean, if there's a problem that one of us is having, I guarantee you someone on this show is probably going to know how to fix it. So it's pretty cool.
I mean, I think you're right about that. Yeah, I think you're right about that, Trent. And it's like, you know, this is the place to bring that problem to, right? I mean, how many of those back of the bar, back of the show discussions of like, oh, I've had this problem. Oh, I've had this problem. Have we all experienced? And then it's never one mind either. I think that's why it's kind of cool to have all three of you guys on today to talk about it, because it's never one, right? And you know, if there was a silver bullet, any one of us would have figured it out by now, but you're not, right? So, I mean, talk about, Travis, some of the topics that like you want to go deep on this one. Like what do you want to bring? I mean, think about it. It's been since we were leaving for MCAA National, if you were going, but we didn't go. So you've had that much of a holdback of help.
Yeah, it was, you know, we were kind of spitballing ideas. A lot of the things that we talked about, again, in those back rooms. And I like the way you were talking about, we all mentioned the conversations that happen in somebody having the solution. And sometimes it's not that anybody actually has the solution. It's that the conversation creates the solution, or multiple options to try for solutions. You know, so to talk about some of the upcoming ideas that we've had, you know, we wanted to have a discussion around LOD, which is one of Nathan Wood's favorite things, his TLAs. So we got to talk about LOD, get deep on that. Try to bring in more of the trends of the world to you know, let's have a panel discussion just about LOD. You know, I don't know how many times I've been on or in conferences and they mention LOD, they talk about LOD, but you know, it's not really the focus. Other things that we've talked about are implementation and deployment. That's something that's always a struggle for all of us. How do you find, Jonathan put up a great article today about having multiple, what are those called? I lost the word. Champions. There you go. Multiple champions, and how to manage that. How do you get more buy-in and adoption? Prefab and modular for the MEP folks and other specialty trades out there. That's a huge topic. And honestly, you know, I know DJ and some of the other GCs are in here. I would love to hear some of their feedback and input on that prefab and modular. What about effective networking? This is one way we're trying to get it now. Like you said, the conferences are gone, but how do those of us in this new role? This role's only been around, you know, some larger companies maybe have had it around a decade, some 5 years, some just new. So people in our position right now we're all, like Trent said, we all have the same problems. So how do I find other people that are experiencing the same thing? So I think that's a good topic. Jonathan's talked a couple of times about how to creatively hack or creative use some things, like, you know, for some of those contractors out there that either don't have the big budgets for R&D and stuff like that, or for software purchases. There are some cheap, free solutions out there, and we're probably not going to point to anyone specifically, but we can talk creatively or talk openly how let's find which ways we can start to shoehorn different workflows into some platforms that probably weren't designed to do that. What are some of the other things here?
Jonathan, what about you? I know you got a couple too, right?
Well, I'm super big on the LOD. I think that's something that I wanted to talk about, because like when we go and we talk to people about what BIM is, like it's almost like we need to have this separate conversation about what level of design is, so you understand what we're talking about. Because when you see my model, see your model, see this other guy's model, it's all different. So I think that's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to a lot of the artful use, the hacking stuff. I love that. And I completely love trying to get away without spending any money to do proof of concept. I think that in looking at the people that are watching, there's like a ton of people that I would consider like hackers and proof of concept people that realize there's a problem. They go to the field, realize there's a problem, and then come back, hack a solution so that people know there's a tech answer to this. And then they look for like, hey, is there a better solution or something else? But I love that, and I hope we can get into that some. Also, I will tell you, every time I go to one of these, I go home and I have to look up at least 2 terms that I had never heard before, but were either asked to me and I had to try to figure out from context what in the hell they were, or were mentioned by someone else, and I'm like, oh, that's perfect. That's the perfect name to describe what's been going on. So I'm hoping we can have, a good dialogue and really open up the vocabulary and kind of talk nerd for a little bit, man. I think it'd be good fun. What about you, Trent?
So I know we got to earlier in the week and even late last week talking about some of these ideas, kind of a backlog that we were working on. And I think one of my favorites was with the power of EDC and the power of the information that we have in our BIM models and getting your team out of Excel and out of Bluebeam, right? Like what?
Now let's get them the hell out of that.
So like we have the information. Why are we living in Excel? Why are we living in PDFs? Why are we? I think that we could do multiple shows on those topics alone. That one stuck out to me when we were going through. I think Travis and Jonathan touched base on the majority of what we talked about, but those two were kind of the fun one. I think we could have a lot of fun with that.
Well, Jeff, if I can jump in here, I think that one of the things that's already coming out of this more interactive format that I was hoping for is we've got the chat is filling up. We've got the questions and answers filling up. Like it sounds like we probably have at least another 6-8 more topics that we could expound on. And I would caution some of you, very strongly to, if you're going to recommend ideas, your face could be up here on the next one. That's kind of the format that we're looking for is, again, recreate the panel, recreate the networking talks afterwards. If there's a conversation or if there's a question that you have and you want to jump in on it, we're gonna put you on the spot. We don't want to sit here and be the talking heads to talk to you about it. We want to involve the larger community. And Jeff, I think you were going to agree with me there that I think that was one of the benefits of this format.
Oh yeah, I mean everybody's going off. I've already got 8 questions open here, 2 in the chat that I have to deal with. This is like my dream. I run these things all the time and I never get to ask all these questions.
I don't know if they're all questions.
Yeah. Well, and usually when we do this in the bar, we're breaking off into I've got 2 people over here, Jonathan's got 2 people over here, and then you hear like a word and you're going, wait, what are you talking about? Or you're moving from, I don't know, whoever will buy you a drink to the other place that somebody will buy you a drink. And so this is awesome that we have it. And I think what we'll do is do some topics around it so we can bring it to, I mean, I'm already going to nominate. We got to bring our boy DJ Phipps on because he's already hitting us all sorts of questions. But I have a new guy that I met recently, Carlos. And Carlos is on and it's kind of cool because again, this is a show about nothing. So I want to step back and how did we get to nothing? How did the dorkiness start? How did we all get started? How did you fall in love with construction tech? And, what he's really asking is he wants to motivate people. And how many times at the bar has that happened to you or at the after show or when you're on I should stop saying the bar, when you're on the panel, has somebody said, Jonathan, how the heck do you motivate people in the company to get them going about this?
As far, I'll tell you what, I think that energy promotes energy when it comes to this stuff. And I can tell you that half of the time I would be walking around demoing what was cool to just anybody that would bother to look. And I can tell you, I would get caught down in the fab shop sitting with the guy in the fab shop looking over something that just came out that's really cool that probably doesn't work yet. It's probably not really made for prime time, but we're going to look at it and we're going to find it, some use for it, because at the heart, I wanted everything to be like I thought it would be when I was watching the Jetsons or when I was looking at the Matrix. Boy, I dated myself well. but you know what I mean? It's half of the excitement about construction tech for me over the last 10 years is half the stuff we thought was going to work started to work. I talked to people about these things that we were struggling with, and they're like, oh yeah, that works fine. We do that 20 times a day. And so it's so much easier now when you're not fighting against things that are months away from actually working, when so much of it, like the connected job site, who 10 years ago had a good connected job site? It just didn't happen. And now it's almost the exception to the rule that you're not going to have a connected job site. You can kind of count on it, in fact. You know what I mean? So when I go out there and talk to my people, when I try to have as much fun as I hope they're going to have with this tech. Because I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was this article about how iPads put on LiDAR. And they're like, well, here's hardware in search of a solution. And I'm like, no, dude. Everybody in construction is like doing cartwheels and backflips because we can finally do freaking AR. Because like we couldn't do it with one camera, but now we can do it. And reading articles like that where people are outside of construction, they think that all we do is swing hammers or put in pipe. When they find out that we're like AR, VR, complete virtual designers, how many hours a day, Trent, do you spend in virtual reality? I mean, in a real way, how many hours a day are you engaged in a virtual universe versus everything?
Some days, quite a few, but I want to say, talking about how do you motivate your team, the one thing we can't forget is we do live in that virtual world, so much. But the one thing that we don't want to forget about is the real world of it. And there's nothing more motivating to me than when I do that site visit and I look at like the hundreds of hours of me slaving at that computer and I see it come into life. It's like that's what's awesome about it. So we do live virtually, but we're doing real tangible things. Like our work is actually building a real physical structure. And I think that's what's cool. I don't think that I don't want my team, or I don't think you should let your team lose sight of that either. Like, let them see what they're doing. I mean, it's really cool. Kind of watching it all, just, watching that virtual model actually build the real actual building. So I don't know, Travis, what do you think?
Yeah, I would just reiterate everything that everybody said. Like the excitement is what gets you there. I've been saying over the last, couple of years as I've been kind of out on the road more and doing more talks at school and stuff, that construction has had a PR problem, much like the military did back in the, Jonathan, I'm gonna date myself right with you, back in the early 90s and stuff, when, the Army of One came out and they kind of redid everything there. I think we have had that PR problem where people think that we're just a bunch of knuckle dragging Neanderthals that are clinging desperately to our 2D drawings and paper, which isn't entirely inaccurate. But I think that this group here is a good example of the kernel that is growing. And, there's a couple of questions in there, and the one from Nick Carrillo about who's got the more excitement from GCs and subs. And I don't think that it's one or the other. I think that you're just finding the companies that realize that this is the future, especially, one of the topics we didn't list about is the new normal. Well, the new normal now is we are going to live in this type of world, and companies that realize that it's time to thrive or die, using these types of tools are the ones that are getting the excitement, getting the adoption, and getting the buy-in. And to then piggyback on Trent's point, when you bring those younger people, when we talk about bringing in summer interns from high school or college or something, it's not just bringing them into the VDC department or doing some tech work and stuff with me. We go out a couple times a month and we do job site walks. We take them through the shop and we show them that, look, that spool that you annotated and you detailed, or that, this is that column that you were referencing in the drawing. I mean, to bring that real world back into the virtual is key.
It's super key to bring it all back in. And I got one more for you here. Mr. Nathan is throwing them off, and I'm going to go to you, Jonathan. But what's your definition of a connected job site?
My definition of a connected job site is a job site in which we exchange data. When we exchange data, we have a connected job site. Okay, that's the simplest one I can come up with. Because, we look at all the analog handoffs we do, and I'm considering that somewhat even PDF. But if we can exchange data versus those analog workflows, that's a connected job site. That's a job site that's talking with the most language to one another. I have to mention just one thing. Carlos asked about how to get engineers and designers from 2D into 3D. I started out as an engineer for a decade, and what got me into 3D was showing up on the job sites like Trent said. Exactly what Trent said, in fact, was I would show up as an engineer on a job site, and I'd see people burning my drawings. Like, I mean, lighting their torches with my drawings, because really I didn't draw anything about what was actually going to get built. I drew about like what the customer wanted. I drew you an order form, and we don't do that. We do like a virtual construction. So I'll tell you, you want to get people out of 2D into 3D, do what Trent says, get them on the job site, let them see what they built. That's gonna change that. You know what I mean? I think overall, like some of the biggest changes that we see as that digital piece goes into the job site is we're starting to see some really cool tools that we could never use without that connectivity. Like Trent, what's the best tool you've seen in the last 6 months on an actual job site since you've been going?
Oh, wow. I have to say that the HoloLens 2 has some pretty cool promise. So, and not just that, actually some of the augmented reality apps on the iPad actually have a really cool functionality. And now with LiDAR, I mean, I can't wait to see where that's going. But I mean, we've recently been working with Visual Live on a search feature for parameters that we push to hangers. And the way we fabricate the hangers, I can have my guys use iPads to you pull one off the rack, look at the number, and then search the number on the app, and it isolates it in the augmented reality. I mean, like, yeah, so it's really, augmented reality is probably some of the coolest stuff I've seen lately, and it's only going to get better. The LiDAR thing is like, holy crap, I can't wait for like 12 months from now, we're going to see like that come full circle. It's going to be cool. I mean, we really will be building from the model completely at some point here pretty soon. So at least you should be. So
have you ever got to see that happen? Because I had a job where I got to see this ductwork guy. I wasn't even running ductwork, building just from the model. But it wasn't because he wanted to build from the model. It's because he could not get drawings that were accurate. And he just, I swear to God, the guy gave up on waiting for accurate drawings. And we go down there, and he's like flying through his iPad app and pulling all the measurements himself. And we're like, serious? He's like, listen, I can wait 5 years for drawings, or I can get the model now and figure a way to slice and dice it to get what I need. And I mean, this was a
that
guy,
might have been accidental genius.
He didn't even have an iPad before that job. We had encouraged him to get an iPad, and he got an iPad, and halfway through the job, he's pulling all his own stuff. It was crazy. That's only
That's
time
awesome.
I've seen somebody go that far, you know?
I can't say I've ever seen it really. I've never seen it fully play out the way I think it should, you know, from, I see the model work really, really well for us, probably right up until the point the material hits the ground on site. That's probably as far as we really efficiently take it. I mean, now we do have guys on site using the model, but we still have a CAD department putting drawings together. I mean, until those stop, I don't think we've mastered that full cycle. So
I would say that that with the LiDAR, with the HoloLens, one of my favorite things that's coming out is the integration now with Microsoft Dynamics. I think that we are going to be getting a lot closer with that, because now I can have a foreman out in the field with a HoloLens 2 on, maybe a HoloLens 3 with LiDAR, walking the model with the VDC designer sitting at their desk, having conversations, pulling real measurements, you know, accuracy, and dialing all that in, you know, hopefully that just means that the paper, the 2D drawings, all that stuff just goes away.
We had a question come in before you jump on. Trent, is that a shop or a field application use that you're talking about with your hangers?
Shop or field? I'm talking about a field application.
That's what I thought. But yep, that was that came in from our good old boy Nathan, trying to keep us. This is supposed to be question and answer. So there you go. That's a field use.
That's a field installation use. Yeah. So
awesome.
And I don't think everybody realizes how confusing it can be, because we put in, and I know you do too, all the embeds ahead of time, and then somebody comes back through and they spray crap fireproofing all over everything. So anything you did to color code is gone. And that's where that AR is like sweet, because the AR knows where it is in the room. It can tell you that one right there. That's where your hanger's going. And
who cares about color code? I mean, whatever.
Yeah, stop color coding. Stop color coding. We have good ways around that. Did you guys, this is a little bit of an aside, but I see the questions have slowed down a little. Have you guys seen some of the robots painting on the floors in buildings?
Yes. Yeah, that stuff looks really cool. I really, as much as sometimes we all fear it, I really kind of look forward to the day that the robots take over. I think it's going to be kind of cool and fun to watch. Right until they put me to work in some sort of mine or something like that to harvest metals for them.
They'll harvest your deadlifts.
I guess part of my question with that, though, is do you wonder at some of these robot designers, when they look at that and then they look at the AR and go, how long will it be before all of layout can be done augmented? I mean, it's not that far. Like, I mean, it's a little far off when you look at the hardware and you sit down and you like figure out how little scaling you can do with some of this, but it's not that far off that we'll be able to see where things go. And I don't know. Bones got the idea of the enabled foreman, the tech-enabled foreman that he talks about all the time. And I'll tell you what, man, I think we're going to see that sort of amplified over the next 6 to 8 months, especially with this tech interaction going on every day.
Well, yeah, I think that we've joked about it several times, but I reshared somebody's LinkedIn post, but who was the driver of your digital transformation at your company? It was COVID-19. I think that's the case for quite a few companies out there that, a lot of the things that we've talked about, and Jonathan, you pointed this out, a lot of the things that we've talked about wanting to come to fruition, wanting to drive adoption, we've carefully, calmly stepped our way into it, and now all of a sudden now they're mission critical. So now the fire hose is wide open. We're going for it. That tech enabled foreman is just the way that is the new normal, is the way that we're going to be working moving forward.
So we did have a question come in before we jump in from Sal D'Ambrosia. How do you deal with being the only sub on the project that gets it?
Trent?
We're not always the only one that gets it. I think mechanical and electrical tends to be maybe a little farther ahead most of the time with that, but I mean, it's getting better. So, I mean, at least we're seeing, architectural and structural guys, whether it be walls or whatever they're doing, at least we're seeing them use, total like robotic total stations and stuff like that now. I mean, we're not, most jobs, they're not snapping chalk lines anymore. But kind of like Nathan's question and Jonathan talked about the connected job site. I mean, I think the goal is where everybody's building and laying out off that model. I mean, that would be the idea of the connected job site. So, yeah, being the one that gets it the most on the job site can be frustrating, but I think somebody has to be the one that starts it. So I don't think that should make us slow down. Maybe you lose a little money. Nobody ever wants to be the first. Like, it pays to be the second, right, or whatever. But I think it's going to get better, and the connected job site is going to be the way to do it. So,
well, Travis,
I'll go to you.
I was going to say, the thing that I would say too is and again, I'm not going to speak for every project that mechanical does and whatnot, but there's been plenty of situations where those other trades or whatever, we've been pretty good at being open to sharing and to kind of putting them, for lack of a better phrase, to put them on our back and bring them along, because as fabricators, it benefits us greatly. If we can get everybody singing from the same sheet of music, then we can fabricate a lot more efficiently. And I think that as we drive the more modularization and fabrication, stories, any of those laggards that were slow to adopt some of the VDC type tech, that they're going to be, kind of drug along, because it just benefits the whole project team.
Jonathan, any last words on that one?
No, you know what? I there's so much that I want to say about it that I'm like, you know what? I don't actually have a crew anymore, so I'm gonna step back from that.
All right. Well, hey, and we're bumping up near it, guys. We wanted to keep this thing kind of short, see how we would do, but Brett Young, one of the original Construction Dorks, he's got a couple of questions, and I answered one of them live and said, you know what? Now I'm going to go back to it. I want to finish this one out, the opener, with what is your favorite? Give me one of your favorite Construction Dork stories from, the real live ones. DJ's been hitting a few of mine already as it is in these chat comments, but Travis, if you have one there, I want you to start. I'll give Trent and Jonathan a minute to think about it.
I think that I'm actually going to piggyback off of DJ's, because it was like the what is it in the comic books, the origin story, right? It was AEC Next 2017-ish. Some of the details are a little bit fuzzy, but that's kind of where it all started. I think that I probably piggybacked in on the discussion a little bit later with DJing in Chris Giza and Mark Decker, but that was kind of the genesis point where, like, we see these groups of people at all these conferences, and we have these conversations, and that was kind of the kickoff of all of that. And the way that I love that, one of the things I love about this group is kind of that amorphous blob. Like, people are just in and out, coming and going. It is a true networking type thing. Like, there's conversations happening all over the place, and people just kind of flow together. So that I would say that genesis moment is probably one of my favorites.
That's awesome. I'm going to give you two time to think about this one, because I know my favorite. DJ already hit it, but I was sitting at the dinner table that night with Walker Lockhart next to me. We were in Austin, Texas at MCAA Tech. I'm there with Jake Olson and Josh Bone. We're drinking and having way too much fun and outside of ourselves. And up rides Brett Young himself in a rickshaw, asking anybody who wants to take a ride. And if y'all don't know Josh Bone that well, that man, you could put a camera in his face and he could televise the entire thing. He jumps in the rickshaw. I think it's him and Jake that jump in the rickshaw together and take off. But on Twitter, Josh live streams the whole thing all the way back to the hotel, doing play-by-play like he's not even in it. And where did Brett get a rickshaw from? And how did this happen? So that's mine. Brett, it was epic. It'll never go away. So I hope that gave Jonathan, you or Trent time to think about it. But Jonathan, what was your favorite, man?
I came into the Construction Dorks super late. Like, my first introduction to the Construction Dorks was when someone invited me to their Slack. And I was like, who's this? This looks like a good Slack. I'll get on this one too. And then I started looking at all the people. I'm like, I know all these people, man. I talked to all these people. I think the best individual stories I have, I am not going to put on air, because we just discussed the fact that this is not a small bubble, but a large bubble. But I did. I pull out of this party. There's a huge amount of music and everything in the background, and I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Jake and Bone, and they looked really passionately arguing about something. And I walked closer, and they were really passionately arguing about some dumb piece of software. And I was like, there's a bunch of drinking and dancing going on right there, and you're out here arguing about software. And I was like, yeah, that kind of defines for me what Construction Dorks are, is that you left the party and stood outside to talk about the small piece of software that you need to get right before next week, or else it's the end of the world. and those have been my best conversations that can be published.
All right, Trent, you get to close us out with this one.
All right, I'll try not to be too lengthy. You're going to see some common denominators here because I think mine involves Josh Bone also. It's kind of weird. Maybe small circle, but also maybe he's guilty. I remember, Travis, when we were in Boston on the Canestraro tour, and we went to the Autodesk lab there. Josh did a presentation, and a lot of times what we do is we're talking to each other all day, and we steal ideas from each other all the time. And I was talking to Josh earlier, and he took like everything I said in that conversation and used it in his presentation. And he gets done, and I'm like, man, like no shout out. Like, what do you ever? And the funny thing is earlier we were on a crowded elevator, and I made the snide kind, like, oh, we're bumping uglies in here, And so when I said, Josh, you didn't shout out to me, he's like, yeah, I mean, who are they going to believe, me or the guy who said bumping uglies on the elevator? So just, he's a clown. I mean, it's, hopefully that was PG enough. So
we don't have to be that PG, but that was just good enough, man. Hey, look, I love ending it when we've got enough in the hopper. So to everybody who put questions out, we have not forgot about you. Although what I'd like everybody to do after this is Travis is going to kind of be running this. We're going to have a link. We're going to do a little bit of production on this thing and get it posted so you guys can share it out with people. But Travis, if I'm not mistaken, you're going to start a way for people to start to submit their ideas. Because if you didn't notice in the chat, those of you that can't see it, that it is crossing over quite a bit. So there's going to be some cool, deep conversation. This was all about seeing if there was a little bit of a space for this, and I think there is. So I'm right about that, right, Travis?
Yep. If you kind of keep your eye on the socials out there, the LinkedIn and the Twitters, or construction.dorks.com or Construction Dorkcast. What was it, Trent? Construction Dorkcast?
Yeah, Dorkcast. Yep, Construction Dorkcast.
That's where we're going to be posting the episodes, and I'll have a form up there. We'll take some of these ideas. If you have some other ideas, if you wanna hop in and sit at the table and drink something, drink a mocktail or an actual cocktail or whatever you got going on, and have a conversation. We're really interested in your ideas. One of the things that's come up a couple times, and I think I got to find out who it was. It was Kyle Snyder, maybe. We don't talk horizontal construction very much. I would love to hear some more input from that. I think that it's, again, like Jeff was saying, there's some cross pollination of ideas there that we could work with. So yeah, watch the social media. If you want to get out of the Construction Dork website, and we'll have some ways for you to interact out there as well.
Yeah. So the hashtag to follow for this group is still hashtag Construction Dorks, right?
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, hey, listen, it's been awesome to have everybody here. We'll try to get back to as many as we can. We'll get this posted. Watch your social. Bring your ideas to the originators of this: Travis, DJ, Brett, Josh, Jonathan, Trent. As the outsider looking in, I really appreciate it. This is an awesome way. Who could have thought that one little episode of the Contact Crew might turn into this one day, and then all those back office dark bar things might come out into the open. So thanks for joining us, guys. We will have this posted soon and provide your feedback. We love those plus deltas, as Nathan would like to say, so bring those to us. And Nathan, of course, we can't forget you, one of the originals as well. If I forgot anybody out there, Nicole Carter, you're here with us. You were there in those original settings, so join us for a future episode. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Later.